Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're immersing ourselves in Florence Knapp's really lyrical novel, The Names, an odyssey of memory and identity. Our source material for this, well, it's not just one overview. We've got a stack of summaries, critical analyses, too, that capture the essence of this quite stirring book. Our mission really is to explore how Knapp uses language, how she illuminates things that feel, unseeable, and the big questions of identity it raises, and why this story hits home for so many of us with our own complicated relationships with memory and self. At its heart, it seems to ask, who are we? What's left when our names, our labels, roles, even memories start to slip away? Knapp really crafts this intimate odyssey, doesn't she? Exploring that quiet ache of what's left unspoken.
Absolutely. And what's so compelling looking across the sources we have is how they consistently highlight Knapp's artistic approach. One analysis even compares her to a painter, not just using light and shadow, but like silence and echo. She's using language not just to tell a story, but to reveal those small, almost sacred truths that live in the spaces between the words. It really invites you to lean in.
That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah. Okay, so let's unpack the narrative setup. It sounds quite unsettling. It unfolds in this small, unnamed town, right? Feels familiar, but also dreamlike, sort of cloaked in this haze of time. Very evocative. And the protagonist, she returns to her childhood home after, years of estrangement.
Exactly. And what's striking, as one summary pointed out, is her name. It's never quite fixed. It shifts like fog over water.
Yeah.
That immediately signals the fluidity that's central to the whole novel.
So it's not just a simple visit then, not just walking down memory lane.
No, not at all. It quickly turns into this profound excavation of the self. The critiques really emphasize how physical this journey becomes for her. You literally see her like sifting through old boxes in the attic. Letters, photos, the echoes of past voices. It's almost this tangible archaeological dig into her own identity.
Right, like digging through layers of the past. And that's where the intergenerational thing comes in so powerfully. She gets drawn into this web of stories, blurring the lines between her ancestors' lives and her own.
Precisely. It's like each object she touches whispers a name, and each name leads her deeper into this labyrinth of her lineage.
Yeah, one reviewer really highlighted that, Knapp showing that identity isn't just personal, it's inherited. It's woven from all these threads of people who came before.
Okay, so building on that blurring of lines, tell us about Knapp's prose. How do the sources describe her writing in these evocative characters? Well, it's fascinating because the writing style itself is almost treated like another character. It gets described as delicate yet potent, like frost tracing a window pane, Beautiful but revealing cold truths underneath.
Delicate yet potent. I like that.
And she achieves this not through big dramatic scenes, but through really precise observation, quiet dialogue. It forces you to lean in, feel the unspoken gaps. And the characters themselves described as both ghostly and grounded.
Ghostly and grounded. Okay.
Yeah, there's a mother who apparently speaks in riddles, a brother who just vanished into silence, a neighbor whose memory is like cracked porcelain.
Wow. That sounds like a whole cast of poignant mysteries.
Yeah.
What strikes me reading about them is how they seem to highlight identity through absence, through what's obscured, not just what's present.
Absolutely. And that raises a really important question some critics dig into.
Yeah.
How much of who we are is shaped not just by what we remember, but by what's forgotten or unsaid or even hidden. These characters, they're not just isolated figures. They form the sort of constellation, forgotten identities, lost stories, old griefs. It really shows how past lives, with all their silences, echo through the present, shaping her own understanding of herself.
So moving on to the big themes then. Loss, belonging, the impermanence of self. These are huge universal ideas. The book doesn't shy away from those quiet aches of being human, does it?
Not at all. But what's insightful, and several sources point this out, is that it doesn't just dwell on the falling away part. It strongly shifts towards reclamation.
Reclamation, okay.
Yeah, and it's not quick. It's described as a slow, painful, transcendent act of stitching oneself back together, using the fragments of forgotten names. So it's more than just remembering. It's about recovering, reintegrating parts of yourself that felt lost.
So ultimately, the story is about the quiet, maybe even radical beauty of remembering, reframing memory not just as recall, but as this creative act, giving life back to what was almost lost.
Exactly. And the narrative flow reflects that too. It's often compared to A river in twilight, reflective, mysterious, edged with sorrow, but also redemption. It's definitely not a straight path.
No easy answers then.
No, and that seems key. Knapp doesn't offer neat resolutions. Instead, she evokes feeling. The sources mention things like the rustle of old pages, the ache of an empty room.
Mm-hmm.
You immerse yourself in the emotional resonance, not just the plot points.
Okay, and then we get to the final pages, described as soft, breathless, and glowing with quiet revelation. What's the big insight there? What does it leave us with?
It sounds like a really profound culmination. The novel, right at the end, reminds us of this truth, both ancient and deeply personal, that to name something is to truly see it. And to see it is to give it life. It's this powerful affirmation, naming as an act of acknowledgement, validation.
So to wrap up our thoughts from this deep dive, The Names isn't just a novel. Based on everything we've looked at, it really does sound like a ritual, a requiem, and maybe, ultimately, a kind of resurrection.
It really does. And for you listening now, this sounds like a book for anyone who's ever, looked in the mirror and wondered, who is that looking back? It apparently hums with silence, speaks in echoes, a very unique, very introspective read.
Yeah. It sounds like The Names really invites you to listen closely, not just to the story Knapp tells, but maybe
Oh.
to the one waiting in your own bones. So perhaps take a moment after this. Reflect on the names that have shaped you, what forgotten stories might be waiting in your own lineage. Something to think about.